unmute.
பண்ணிட்டாங்க சார்.
Martin, can you hear my voice?
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
Thank you.
Yes. The principal ஒரே இது ஜஸ்ட் சாருக்கு ஒரே ஒரு இது மட்டும் பண்ணிடுறேன்.
Simon, sir.
Yes, sir. Good morning.
Simon. Good morning. This is Principal, American College.
Hi, sir. How are you?
Yes.
Fine, sir. Fine, sir. I heard about you a lot. Thank you for accepting. Yeah. Definitely, it's a good one. Chess is our good friend, sir.
Okay. Great, sir.
Yeah.
Stanley Mohan is my first cousin's husband.
Oh, okay. Mm-hmm. He's one of our leader. We only took care of many of our friends.
Okay, wonderful. Chester, of course, is my co-brother.
Yeah. He said, sir. And you are in Chennai now.
I am based out of Chennai, sir. Yes.
Where in Chennai, sir?
In Ananagar, sir. Ananagar East.
Okay. Great, sir. Kanagoli, it's time. 10 o'clock now.
Yes, sir.
Sir, we can start, sir.
Yeah.
Yes, sir.
இல்ல சார், உங்க மைக் ஆன் பண்ணுங்க.
A pleasant morning to one and all dear friends. The Department of Commerce, the American College, takes pleasure in welcoming you all for this webinar titled Perspicacious View on Electronic Payments. Let's implore God's blessings through a word of prayer by Mrs. Jameson Vidya.
Loving Heavenly Father, we are here together for this momentous webinar. We know we won't be able to do this without your blessings. Thus, we thank you for bringing us together to work for the good of mankind. Help us to promulgate program that would benefit. Bless me, principal, secretary, speaker, participants of the session, the well knowledge others. Happiness and peace to your home. May all people around the world
நீங்க யூடியூப்ல பாருங்க. யூடியூப்ல பாருங்க. Thank you.
experience your love and generosity. These we ask in Jesus Christ. Amen.
Thank you, ma'am, for your word of prayer. We have a great leader who is none other than Dr. A. Martin David, the head of the Department of Commerce, who is the man who is behind steering this webinar. May I have the pleasure to invite you, sir, to welcome the gathering.
Thank you, Hillary. Greetings to all and good morning. Our respected principal and secretary, resource person, faculty members, participants from other institutions, a pleasant morning to one and all. on behalf of the Department of Commerce and my own behalf, I welcome you all for your most precious presence here. I thank all for accepting our invitation to attend this webinar on a perspicacious view on electronic payment. With a grateful heart, in this morning hour, I deemed it a privilege to welcome this August gathering to the webinar here in this scholarly institution. Some are born great, some are made great, and some achieve greatness in the pronunciation of the voice. Greatness earned by men is called goodwill in business term. It is befitting to thereby understand that goodwill at the American College earned is given an economic value addition through the works of our dear principal, Dr. Dawamani Christopher. I welcome our esteemed principal, Dr. Dawamani Christopher, for his gracious presence amidst us. I thank the principal for encouraging us to organize this webinar. I thank our department faculty for the tireless work in organizing this webinar. Also, I thank Dr. Kanagavalli, the organizer of this today's webinar. And also I thank the technical team for the support, the technical personnel being Messrs. Sundaresan, Messrs. Hussain, Messrs. Vivek, and others. It's my pleasure to have the resource person today's webinar, Mrs. Simon Solomon, co-founder and managing director, OGS Paylab Private Limited, Chennai. He's with us today to share his valuable views about an insight of electronic payment. I welcome you, sir. Once again, I thank one and all. Thank you. Now over to Dr. Dawamani Christopher, to our principal.
Good
Dear
morning.
friends,
Good morning. Can you hear my
Good morning,
voice?
sir. Yes, sir. Good morning, sir.
Thank you. Thank you. Good morning. Good morning to all. Webinar on a perspicacious view on electronic payments. Congratulations to the heads of the Commerce Department of the American College and their staff, and thanks to the resource person, Mr. Simon Solomon, the co-founder and managing director, OGS Payable Private Limited, Chennai, for accepting our request to be the resource person today. Department of Commerce of the American College has a great tradition and one of the popular departments of our college. The vibrant alumni spread not only in the city and state and the country, they are spread all over the world. Yes, not only the students, but also the faculty are talented and vibrant. Congratulations for your wonderful initiation again. Entire world kept quiet even after 100 days. No one knows what to do. In every crisis lies opportunity. Yes, in the midst of every crisis lies great opportunity. Anything, we have to take it in positive sense. We have to adapt ourselves for any situation. God gave a chance to think about our future. Yes, it is a God-given break in the fast and furious world. Crises and deadlocks, when they occur, have at least this advantage that they force us to think. Yes, it is an exercise to all to face tomorrow's world. In this kind of situation, many departments in the college came forward to conduct webinars, workshops, conferences for the benefit of their students and faculty and also to the researchers and public. Likewise, the Commerce Department is organizing a webinar on Perspicacious view on electronic payment now. The topic is a need of the hour. The entire world kept quiet. We have to transact only through electronic media, electronic payment. I do appreciate the efforts of Commerce Department for organizing such a useful webinar. In our college, we have become regular, become self-finance, become CA, become IT, and become professional accountants in main campus, as well as become self-finance and become CA in satellite campus. While all are busy in discussing COVID-19 and post-COVID-19, the Department of Commerce is concentrating the perspicacious view on electronics payments. I appreciate their social concern. Congratulations. Friends, I'm happy to inaugurate the webinar on perspicacious view on electronic payment, organized by the Department of Commerce of the American College to their students, researchers, and public during the lockdown period caused by coronavirus pandemic. It's my pleasure to thank again the resource person, Mr. Simon Solomon, the co-founder and managing director, OGS Pay Lab Private Limited, Chennai, for accepting to be the resource person in the webinar today. OGS Pay Lab, which is a fintech company and engaged in electronic payments industry. Mr. Simon is a qualified chartered accountant from the Institute of Chartered Account of India, who has more than 32 years of working experience, out of which last 12 years he has been in payments industry. He has very strong executive leadership and finance background with a specialized accomplishment in corporate finance, capital markets, investing banking, treasury management, and wealth management services and technology experience in scaling and building customer experience in these domains. Hope it will be useful for all. Once again, I congratulate the Faculty of Commerce of the American College, webinar coordinator and BCom CA head Dr. Kanavalli, MCom coordinator Mr. Justin, BCom professional coding head Dr. Samuel Michelvan, BCom SF coordinator Dr. Sophia, BCom IT head Dr. Anthony, and become self-finance and satellite campus head Dr. Hilary Joseph for their wonderful initiative. And special congratulations to the man behind everything, Dr. Martin. God bless.
Thank you, sir, for your words of felicitation. Dear friends, we would like to gratefully acknowledge the presence of our Principal and Secretary, Dr. M. Dominic Cristoba, who is a man of positive thinking. He spreads positive energy to others, through which the department achieves a lot. Thank you, sir. Now, we would like to hand over the session to the resource person of the day, Mr. Solomon.
Wonderful. Thank you, Principal Sir, Dr. Martin, the organizers of the committee, and I thank the esteemed institution for this opportunity to kind of interact on this very current subject of electronic payments. I'm glad to be here, of course, and thank God, I hope everybody present here are safe, keeping away from all trouble. And I, like the respected principal mentioned, we have to thank God for this time, which is, from away from our usual routines to kind of widen our knowledge in many fields. Having said that, let me straight away jump into the world of electronic payments. All of us know that so far electronic payments was something like more of a convenience, but in the current situation, it has become more of a necessity. What the demonetization couldn't do, the virus has done. Kind of pushed people towards digital payments and achieved much more than what anybody else could do, because digital payments and the confluence of all the electronic medium into one platform is the kind of the requirement and the aspiration of every government in the world. So I think from here, let me get on into the slideshow and Are you able to see my screen? I hope you are able to see my screen. Wonderful. So before I get into the objectives, the electronic payments world is a large world. And within this time frame of probably 45 minutes to an hour, let me try to kind of bring you up to speed with some of the actual day-to-day usage of digital payments. This would be the kind of flow in which I would like to take this presentation through. The various instruments, methodology we use, the usual terms that we face in a day-to-day usage of electronic payments. In the process, give you brief insights on what goes behind the transactions. There are various types of transactions. Although all of us, many of us are using electronic payments, I would like to give you the insight behind what actually happens in the process. And of course, the security concerns that we normally think about, which is there in the back of our minds, and some tips from the industry, how to avoid frauds and how to stay safe while using the electronic medium for payments. And finally, a brief insight into what we are beginning to see in terms of the emerging trends in this field. Before we get into, like I mentioned, some trends, the current situations, how people are looking at being transitioned from a necessity, from a good to have feeling to a necessity in the electronic payments. So we have recently done a survey which included a few countries from the Middle East, including our own India. And we find very interestingly that not only the current scenario, but increased trust in the security of payment technologies, right? Like the speed, convenience, and of course, limiting human contact were the top reasons for the shift in preference towards the digital payments. This is the survey which was done by a few reputed consulting firms, one of the big four, in fact. And these are the briefly I want to present the study, the outcome of the survey, right? So what we found is about 68% of the respondents who are surveyed have reduced shopping in store. That means they don't visit the shops since the outbreak of the pandemic, and 49% are shopping more online. So it's not just a perceived perception that maybe people are using more technology payments, electronic or digital payments, but I think a survey did bring out these facts. And when they do go to shops to purchase, 71% are using digital payments more than cash, and the majority are using contactless cards and mobile wallets. Of course, during the course of this webinar, I'll be explaining, I think all these terms would be more apparent to you. 43% consumers surveyed believe that they will continue to use these contactless payments more in store after the pandemic is over too. And 48% said that they will continue to opt for more online paying with cards or digital wallet over, kind of cash on delivery scenario. So let me get into the electronic payments. We'll start with the basic definition. Electronic payments, I just want to make a distinction between, sometimes there is a conflict of thought between electronic payments and electronic currencies. So I just like to kind of pan the definition properly upfront. So electronic payments is generally defined as the method of making payments in which a person transfers money or moves money electronically. Key point to understand here is the currency is the normal physical or the normal sovereign currency of a country, and the payment mode, the transaction only is electronic. Whereas when we call electronic money or digital money, both the currency and the payment transactions, both are electronic. You must have heard of terms like cryptocurrencies and bitcoins and stuff. Those are the ones which are called as the electronic money or digital currencies, as they call it. So let's jump into the world of e-payments. You must have heard this very famous saying from the greatest investor, as he's called, Warren Buffett, who says that he will not invest in any industry or in any company unless he understands it. So here we use a lot of e-payment modes, and we keep coming across several terms, like some of which we have listed on the screen: net banking, mobile payments, UPI payments, IMPS, NEFT, RTGS, QR codes, OTP, CVV, VPA, NFC, PPI, virtual bank account, and then of course you hear of Google Pay, Paytm, Apple Pay, Beam app, etc., etc. All this sometimes does not make sense to us. So I hope at the end of this webinar, these terms would have become familiar to you. And these terms I'm not going to address each particular term by itself, but then as we go across the transactions and the world of electronic payments, these words will automatically pop up and get defined in the process. So therefore, let's get into the essential components. When you talk of electronic payments, you need a device to conduct to initiate a transaction, right? We initiate a transaction either on a mobile or on a computer or on an ATM or any of these point of sale devices, as we call it, the POS, which you see in a merchant shop. When you go to a merchant store and you swipe your card, that device that is presented to you is called this point of sale or POS, right? So these are called channels in the transaction world. And then, of course, to do a transaction on any of these channels or devices, you need an instrument. Instruments, the most commonly used ones are the payment cards. We have the debit cards, credit cards, prepaid cards, and of course, mobile wallets. Like I mentioned earlier, these terms would get defined as we go along. So let's call them payment cards for the moment. Then you have the mobile apps, the apps that you see on your smartphone through which you do transactions, and then of course the net banking products. Thirdly, and the most important is the bank account. So you need a device, you need an instrument to be used at these devices. And the moot point is money moves from one bank account to the other. Of course, there are some special transactions. I would like to qualify that, especially in the newer trends that we are seeing in the industry, where a bank account is strictly not needed, but those are the exceptions, not the rule. So generally, the bank account is an ubiquitous requirement or a component of the transaction, right? So what are the common usage and modes that we where do we use, and for what do we use electronic payments? I've tried to kind of summarize these in a simple slide. You have payments for purchases or for services. We do bill payments, utility payments. We transfer money from person to person. We top up our mobiles, our DTH, and so on and so forth. And of course, we do cash withdrawals, right? And to do all these transactions, these are the modes that we usually and most often and actually adopt. These are the credit and the debit and the prepaid cards, which are used at a POS or ATM or online. Then you have the mobile apps. Examples would be Google Pay and Paytm. We have the mobile wallets. As we go along, you will know the difference between a mobile app and a mobile wallet. And of course, the net banking that all of us do. So broadly, if you look at it, the transactions, electronic payments can be divided into three broad categories. One are the card payment transaction. Two would be the mobile and the mobile app transactions. And of course, the net banking. So right before we get into these categories and kind of try to explain the various types of categories and how the transaction goes along, I want to go back. I want to step out away from the electronic payments and try to chart a normal transaction which would define the broad basic concepts in any payment transaction, and which would be essential for us to understand the electronic payments as we go along. So here we are. Let's take a very simple example of a customer who wants to make a payment to a merchant, and what he has is a customer has a bank account. The bank normally issues a checkbook to the customer, which is what he uses. The merchant has his own current account or a trading or merchant account, whatever, in his own bank. And between all these banks, the one entity which connects various banks is what we call the clearing and the settlement house. This role is more often played by the central bank, which is RBI. RBI, of course, has decentralized that into a clearing house separately. But then generally in every country, there's a clearing and settlement house owned by the central bank. So if you want to look at a bare minimum, basic transaction, a customer wants to make a payment to the merchant, right? So in doing so, he can either opt for cash, where ends the matter. There is nothing to be done beyond that. But assuming that he makes a payment by a check. So I would like to introduce various concepts which will be terms which we'll be using throughout the through this course of the webinar, which will be relevant. So you have the customer's bank, which is called the the issuing bank, which issues a check, right? So the customer writes a check. Check is the instrument of payment, and he gives a check to the merchant. Now the merchant presents it to his bank account, and this bank now has to realize the money, for which it will forward it to the clearing house, which is a network connecting various banks. And this clearing house will in turn forward the check to the customer's bank, which is what we call the issuing bank, right? So this is where the authentication takes place. We talk of PINs, we talk of OTPs, we talk of CVVs being used, and all these authentication mediums in the electronic payments scenario. But that is what happens here at the customer's bank. So the customer's bank does the authentication. He checks the signature of the customer. He checks whether the instrument, that check itself, is a genuine one which is issued by the bank. They go through the MICR details and all that stuff. And then finally, they will check once the check clears or the instrument clears the validation, then they will get into the customer's account, check whether he has the balance for which the check has been issued. And then in turn, the customer's bank will make the payment, send the money funds to the clearinghouse. At the end of the day, clearinghouse will be transferring money to the merchant bank account. So that completes the complete payment cycle of the customer making a payment to the merchant, and all these entities are involved in the middle, right? So I think this will lay the foundation for us to go ahead and understand electronic payments better. So we go to the first category of the payments that we saw, the card payments. Cards generally are of three types. You have the debit card, which we call them as pay now cards, the credit cards, which we say pay later cards, and the prepaid cards, which we say pay before cards, right? A debit card is actually linked to your savings account in a bank. It is issued by your bank where you hold the savings account. And when you make a payment through a debit card, you pay now. Your savings account is then and there debited when you swipe the card, right? So this is called the debit card. Credit card, of course, is issued by a credit card issuing bank, not necessarily that you have to have a savings account with that bank. For example, I may be a state bank account holder, whereas I may be holding a Citibank card, a credit card. I won't have any other transaction to do with Citibank, but I would still have a credit card from Citibank. So the payment is linked to the credit limit that the issuing bank gives me. And once the payment is made, the credit card holder will pay the credit card bank later. That's why it's called as pay later. The money leaves my account much later, maybe 30 days, 45 days later, right? So that's what we call as a credit card. Prepaid card, defined as the term itself kind of signifies what it is. It is pay. You have to pay before. You have to top up the prepaid account that is held by the bank or the prepaid card issuer who has issued the card to you. So that is why this is called a prepaid card. Okay, all these cards can be either a physical, which you normally have in your wallet by way of a plastic card, or it could be a virtual card, right? A bank can issue a virtual prepaid card, which is a 16-digit number, basically. That's about it. So any of these cards can be either a physical or a virtual card. So when we generally use the term card, it means a payment card. It could be physical or virtual. So how does the transaction cycle look like? This looks like a very simple chart. A lot of complexity is involved, a lot of technology involved behind this. It has taken generations for this technology to evolve. However, let me try to make it simple for you. So here we have a card holder who has been issued a card. Now this card is issued by this bank, that is the card holder's bank. So let's, for our example, take this as the Canara Bank, right? So this Canara Bank has issued a card, which is, for our example, let's take a debit card, right? So this card holder takes this Canara Bank debit card and goes to an ATM. Now it so happens that in his locality, he doesn't have a Canara Bank ATM. It's a State Bank of India ATM, assuming. So he can use this card either at an ATM or a merchant point of sale, or you can use it on a computer or on a mobile using internet-based transactions. So these are what we define as channels, right? The ATM, POS, and the channels where we use the card. So this ATM, he goes to an ATM, which in our example is a State Bank of India. And so this State Bank of India owns this ATM. So this bank which sits here is called the acquirer bank, to which all these channels are connected. I hope I'm not going very fast. Please let me know if I'm going too fast on these things. So here we are. So this acquiring banks are the ones which deploy these channels for end card users to use. So they deploy ATMs in various locations. They give POS to many various merchant organizations, and they own their websites, which is open to the public to come and use. So when you do a transaction here, so this person goes to the State Bank of India ATM, and let's say that he wants to withdraw, say, 5,000 rupees, right? So the moment he does the thing, he puts in the card here, goes through all the screens. Finally, he punches in his PIN number. The moment he punches in the PIN number, these basic validations are done at the ATM. The ATM does not check whether the PIN is correct. It only checks whether it's a proper 4-digit PIN that is used. That's it. So once that happens, the transaction then reaches the acquiring bank. Because this ATM is owned by this bank, State Bank in our example, the transaction reaches here. The moment the transaction reaches, now when we say reaches, there's a whole lot of technologies involved in this connectivity. It could be, the signal, the message types, the encryptions, the VSAT communication, or the broadband, or whatever are the communication channels. And so therefore there are security devices sitting behind that. We are not getting into that. I just want to throw open to you, just open your vision on what happens behind a transaction. Right? So at this leg, let's assume that the through any of these communication channels, the transaction has reached the State Bank of India. So once it reaches here, the bank verifies the card. Now, all of you know that each of these plastic cards that we hold are 16-digit cards, right? They are having a 16-digit number. Now, the first 4 or 6 digits will define it belongs to which network. Now, you would see that even if your card is issued by a Canara Bank or your HDFC Bank or ICICI Bank, you will find these logos: Visa, MasterCard, RuPay, Amex on the card. So these are the networks, the financial networks. We call them the card associations. They are generally also called the card schemes. They own the card numbers. So they give license to the issuing banks to issue a certain set of cards based on numbers which are owned by them. So these first 4 digits, for example, if you do have a card in your wallet, you can straight away look up and see. If the card number starts with 4, it's a Visa card. If it starts with 5, it would be a MasterCard. If it starts with 6, it would be a RuPay. If it starts with 3, it would be an Amex, and so on and so forth, right? So these first 4 or 6 digits define whose card it is, which scheme network the card belongs to, what type of a card it is, whether it's a debit or a credit card, right? These are defined by the first 4 to 6 digits. The following digits will signify which bank and what is its security codes and stuff like that. So looking at, this is called the bank identification number. The 16-digit card numbers that you see on your card, they are called the BIN, the bank identification number. So when this State Bank receives the transaction, they will know from it that this belongs to a Visa, for example, in our example. So they will send it to the Visa network, right? These are connected through what we call as the EFT switches, electronic fund transfer switch that sits out here in this bank. So this EFT switch will transmit to the financial networks. In our case, it will go to Visa. Visa would, of course, know which bank it is based on because he is the one who authorizes that issuance, and the transaction reaches Canara Bank. Now, like I'd like to now again refer back to the parallel of the bank which has issued a check. So right here in this Canara Bank, you will have, since in our example, we have chosen to talk of a debit card. So the debit card is linked to a savings account. The savings account is within this bank, that is the Canara Bank. And the bank would then start the authentication process. So the card transaction has reached Canara Bank, which is the issuing bank in our example. Issuing bank means the bank which has issued the card. It's as simple as that, right? So once the the transaction reaches the issuing bank, they will authenticate the card, whether the card is genuine, whether the PIN that the card or the holder has punched it into the ATM, that all travels in that message packets, right? So the PIN would be available, what you have punched in the ATM, to this bank processing center, which may be thousands of miles away. So they will check the bank systems. Again, it's the EFT switch which does all this, an electronic fund transfer switch which sits in the issuing bank. So when the issuing bank checks that whether the transaction, the card message having been received, they will check whether the card is genuine, the PIN is correct, and then using complex algorithms, you know that your savings account, we all know that, our savings account is a different 12-digit or 13-digit or a 10-digit number, whereas the card is a different series or series of 16-digit numbers. So how to link this card belongs to whom? Those are the systems which are available in the issuing side. So the issuing bank would run those algorithms, check up which is your link to your savings account, go into the savings account and check the balance whether this withdrawal transaction of 5,000 rupees, can it be honored? Is there enough sufficient balance in the savings account? So once assuming that the balance is available, they will then approve the transaction, right? So the transaction again travels back from Canara Bank to Visa to State Bank of India and then to the ATM. So it travels all the way back here. And guess what? From the time you punch in the PIN to all these transactions happening and back the bank giving out the cash, it will not take more than 15 to 20 seconds. So this is, I would like to impress the kind of technology that is used in this whole transaction. A whole lot of legs, 3 legs here, plus the authentication leg, and the entire thing back and forth has to happen in 15 seconds, 15 to 20 seconds. So once this transaction happens, that does not mean that's the end of the transaction. You take the 5,000 rupees, this card holder will take the 5,000 rupees and walk away, right? What happens? The money has been given by State Bank on behalf of a card holder whose account is in Canara Bank. So end of day, this is what the settlement and clearing house. So these networks play the role of the settlement and clearing. End of the day, this bank will be, the money will be taken from this bank and sent on to this bank, from the State Bank to the Canara Bank. So these are this completes one leg of a transaction of a simple a card withdrawal transaction, right? So it's a very, I try to kind of portray it in a very simple diagram. A lot of technologies goes behind it, a lot of authentication stuff that goes behind these transactions. And then, finally the transaction happens. So, now that we can do many transactions in ATM. You can transfer money from person to person. You can do your account balance checking. You can do your PIN management, all that stuff. Same thing at the point of sale, right? You make payments. You don't get cash, but you make payment to a bank, to a merchant, and how he receives the monies. As we progress along, those things would get clear. So an internet-based transaction is what we call a payment gateway. It's basically a website. It is nothing but an equivalent of a physical POS which is used to make payments to a merchant, right? So here in the ATM and the POS, the actual card is swiped. We call them as the card present transactions. In an internet-based scenario, the card numbers are manually keyed in by us. These we broadly call as the card not present transactions. Okay. So this is broadly how transactions work. So I suppose, this is a little clear to you how transactions work. Let's move on from here, right? So what the authentication? Authentication means this is the critical step which determines whether your transaction succeeds or whether your transaction is complete. So as far as a card is concerned, it is a PIN or the biometric. I don't know whether any of you have seen, but there are ATMs which will take a fingerprint instead of a PIN. So it's either the PIN or the biometric at the ATM or the POS, which is the authentication factor which is used to authenticate your transaction. In an internet-based transaction, you would use the CVV and the OTP, right? The CVV is nothing but what we call as a card verification value. It is a 3-digit number which is found at the back of your card, which is kind of secret. It is not available on the face of the card, but at the back. And of course, when you punch in the CVV, in turn, the bank also checks with your registered mobile whether you are the person doing it. It will send you an OTP through the service provider, to the telecom service provider. You will punch in the OTP as well. This is what we call as a 2-factor authentication. So use 2 factors. You use a CVV and an OTP. So because internet is more prone to hacking, so you need to be a little bit more careful on this. And of course, there are additional security which is available on internet-based transactions, what we call as Visa Secure, MasterCard Secure, Amex SafeKey for online transaction. These are facilities given by the respective Visa, Master, and Amex networks, for which you have got to register yourself, which is better. It gives you more security. So these are the authentication points which are very critical. We got to remember this. So from here, I would straight away jump to the third point which I had mentioned in my objective, saying what should be the precautions that we got to take. before we move on to the other types of transactions, simply because these are more peculiar and are more, we have got to be more careful with the card transaction. So let me bring that up front. I apologize. I'm sorry for the icon that I'm using. I think this is relevant to our times as far as the word precaution is concerned. So here we are. So generally available advice. So this is what the bank would tell you, right? You have a card pin, please don't share with anyone. You don't write it on the card so that if you lose the card, you don't lose it along with your pin. Never lose sight of your card. No, don't allow anybody to take a photocopy or take a picture of your card, in which case they can, use those numbers. They may return the card to you, but those numbers are available with them for them to use it on an internet. And of course, never ever disclose a CVV, including to bank officials. Even if you're talking to a bank official or a phone or a customer care center, CVV is something which is you should never reveal to anybody. And then as far as the online transactions are concerned, simple precautions like, never on every browser, when you do a login and password, you would find a box saying save your login or password. So especially when you're doing electronic transaction or payment transaction, ensure that you don't tick that box, right? Never save the login and password onto your browser, which is available or there for others to see, especially the hackers whom you don't see. And every transaction, after you finish, you must close the browser. So that is kind of wipes off from the temporary memory area what you have punched in. It's always safe to close your browser after every transaction. And of course, like I mentioned earlier, again, don't store a picture of your card on your mobile or on your computer. In case one of these is hacked, you lose the card details as well. So these are the precautions which normally you get to know from banks. I'll let you know some other precautions which, as experts in the field, we would like to tell you. These are some of these may even shock you, because I think many of us do these things. The first one, foremost, never ever use your debit card for shopping or purchases. It is very shocking that most banks push or they advertise. They give you all kinds of incentives. You get 5% cashback. You get this free. You do this free. Use your debit card for shopping, which is shocking because they want more transactions. But the truth is, never use a debit card for shopping or for your purchases. Simply because the moment you use a debit card, you are exposing your savings account, not only now but for the future. So any of the transaction on the way, if it is hacked, or if there's a data leak from any of the channels or from the telecom cycle, your savings account will stand compromised. You will not know. Somebody will be drawing cash quietly from your savings account, right? If you do a transaction through your card, you would get an OTP, an alert from the mobile on your mobile. But when somebody pulls out money from you may not get an alert unless you are registered properly for it, right? So you never use your debit card for shopping or for purchases. Two is always use a credit card to do your shopping purchases, credit or prepaid cards. And very important, go to the net banking, and there's a facility for you to manage your card, right? There are many ticks that are there which you'll have to disable. You must disable the ATM withdrawal for credit card, because credit card frauds, 90% of them are used for drawing cash out of a ATM. So this is one precaution which you can take. Disable the ATM withdrawal facility for your credit card, because you would be using your debit card anyway to use at an ATM. So disable your credit card for ATM. Disable international purchases as long as you're not traveling overseas. Set limits for the amount of usage so that you are safe. Nobody can defraud you for a higher amount. That's what you must do. So manage your card is one facility which most of us don't use. Please do it. And use prepaid cards for travel, non-regular payments when you're traveling abroad or in inland. Both ways, use a travel card. Most banks offer a travel card. It's a prepaid card. You go deposit 50,000, 40,000, 25,000, take a card. So even if you lose the card, the money is not lost. Your PIN is with you, and your savings account is not exposed to the outside world. And of course, like I mentioned in the previous slide, use the Visa Secure, MasterCard Secure, additional component. This is available on your bank website. Do that. And of course, this is one thing which I would like to highlight here is most people use the PIN as their date of birth or their name or 1, 2, 3, 4 stuff like that. I mean, these are data which any hacker would instantly it will be available for him. From the card itself, you know your name, your date of birth can be taken from your Aadhaar if it is linked, and so on and so forth. So use always a PIN or a password which is not related to your name, your date of birth, or any other user data which is available on the net, right? So let's move on. I think we need to move faster from here. We have the next category as the mobile and the payments that we are doing through the mobile and the apps. Okay, from the mobile, the first type of transaction that we use a mobile for is the net banking, which is in the bank site. We access the bank site just like you do from a computer, and we do our transactions. So I will not cover that. I will straight away jump to the next two when I explain in the following slides. So the second type of transaction that we very often do on a mobile is what we call as the payment gateway transactions. You use especially at the e-commerce site for rail bookings. We go to a payment gateway and then we use. So I'll explain how these transactions happen. And of course, we have specialized apps, like the Paytm. There's a lot of difference between various apps. Some are prepaid apps, some are UPI based apps, some are wallet apps, which I would like to explain in brief as we go along. So e-commerce payment. So like I mentioned, I skipped net banking, go straight away to point number 2, which is the e-commerce payment. So here we are, a customer goes to the merchant site, could be Amazon, could be Flipkart, or it could be like for example, a rail booking like IRCTC site, and we do our shopping or our bookings. Finally, when we are ready to complete the transaction, we hit the make payment button, right? So when you hit the make payment button, automatically the site will take you to a third-party site, which is called the payment gateway. This is a separate web page, and on the payment gateway, this payment gateway is something like a POS machine, except that it gives you several features, several options to make payments. You can either use a card to make a payment. You can go to net banking. You can choose the net banking option, in which case you will be directed to your bank, or you can use an app like a Paytm or something, which is linked, right? So once you do these transactions, you complete the transaction. I don't want to get into this because we have already seen a card transaction. Net banking, all of us know. Apps we will cover in the next section. So any of this itself is a complex transaction that happens. The moment you finish these transactions, you can go to the straight away to the merchant site. So you can go straight to the merchant site, and I'm sorry, I think there's a glitch on my screen. Yeah, can you see my screen? So there you have the merchant site. The transaction happens here from the card or the net banking or the apps. Once you have finished the payment, the transaction is routed back to the merchant site, and your payment is done. So the merchant then delivers. You get your invoice saying delivery after 6 days, whatever. So the e-commerce payment is something which a payment gateway is nothing but a multiple option giving website through which you can use different types of transactions. Right. So then we go on to the mobile app payments. Now, there are several ways in which you use the mobile. One, of course, is the e-commerce site. You can use it like a computer to do the payments. I'm only referring here to the specialized apps which are available on a smartphone, which you use to do payments. So there are several types of apps which are available. One is the prepaid apps. Examples would be Paytm, Ola Money, Airtel Money, so on and so forth. It's a prepaid app, like a prepaid card. You have to load money first into your account. This money is held by the service provider. You load money into your Paytm passbook, as they call it. It is held by Paytm's bank account. Okay, so you don't get interest on that, but then you have kept that money there only for making payments for a short limited period of time. You can anytime transfer back the money back into your bank account, and 1 second. Sorry. So you can transfer money back into your bank account. Of course, this will involve some 3 to 4% of transaction charges. You can make payments for many purposes. Person-to-person transfer is possible through these apps. The convenience of these apps is that you bypass the net banking or the card payment. You don't have to go to multiple screens. You have to go and register a beneficiary, do all that. That is not needed here in these apps. You can straight away make a transfer from this app. So, and finally, the risk of fraud is limited to the amount of money that you have loaded onto this app, right? So there we are. The prepaid card transaction flow, how does it happen? A prepaid app. The customer goes to, say, for example, the Paytm app. I'm taking the example of Paytm app, and he wants to make payment for a merchant, say, for example, a top up for an Airtel or a Vodafone top up. So let's call that's a merchant. So you ask the Paytm that you got to top up the merchant. The merchant, in turn, that site will take you back to the Paytm screen, which you may not notice, but then it will happen within the Paytm screen, where it will throw up what is the payments that you got to make. And the moment that you use that money is to make payment, the money is transferred from the Paytm site or their bank or their account from their payment gateway to the merchant account using a UPI platform. We will see going forward what is a UPI platform. So Paytm will be transferring money to the merchant account through a UPI platform. That's how the money flows. And the merchant account, of course, the bank, it's basically a bank account which confirms to the merchant, yes, payment received, and you get your transaction complete, messages on the app, and also directly the message can flow through the app, and also you get directly from your Airtel or Vodafone saying that yes, your top up is complete. So this is how a payment transaction flows. Key points to know is that all these transactions happen through some payment platform in between the app provider and the bank account, right? So what is an UPI platform? So this is the next method of payment transactions which happens. This is a next generation platform. It is basically UPI is Unified Payments Interface, as we call it. This is developed by the arm of RBI, which is called the National Payments Corporation of India, NPCI. And this is basically a platform, right? It's a facility which allows several banks and several e-commerce payment gateways and several players to interface each other. It's a platform on which all these people interact with. It's like a marketplace. So UPI is a concept which allows multiple bank accounts to get into a single mobile application, right? The features of UPI are that you can immediately transfer money, which is faster than NEFT or anything else. Being a completely digital platform, you can use UPI 24 hours a day and all public holidays, basically 24/7, 365 days. It uses a virtual payment address, a VPA, which is what is given to you by a bank. So when you register yourself for a UPI facility, they will give you a unique ID, which is called a VPA. And when they give you the VPA, it is linked to your bank account along with your name or with your mobile number. In either which way, you will be given a MPIN, which is a mobile banking personal identification number, an MPIN, which is given to you along with the VPA. So when you do these transactions, this is how the UPI process works, right? You have an account with HDFC. Your friend has an account with, say, ICICI. You want to make payments to him. So you got to know his either a phone number or his bank account, or just on your contacts list, you'll have anyway his phone number. You can choose him and tell the app, whichever app you're using, for example, Google Pay or Beam app, that you want to pay him 1,000 rupees. What happens is the Google Pay will link to your HDFC through this UPI platform, which in turn, will link ICICI, because ICICI also is registered with UPI. They will use the IMPS platform, the immediate payment services, that is called the IMPS services of NPCI, and transfer money to ICICI. It is instant. The moment you click, the next second your friend will receive the money, right? And it is received in his account. So there's a transfer of money from your bank to his bank. So these are the examples of apps which use this UPI payment process, Google Pay and Beam app. Difference between Google Pay and Paytm. Paytm is a prepaid stuff where you have to put money into your bank, into your app first, and then make a payment. Google Pay, you don't have to pay anybody. The money resides in your bank account and then gets transferred to the other person instantly from your bank directly. Doesn't go to an intermediate bank account like Paytm or any other prepaid account. So these are the advantages of using UPI. There is no pre-loading of money required. No need to add a beneficiary. You can have multiple payment methods, modes. You can, if you know a person's bank account or an IFSC code, you can transfer. You don't know their bank account, you can know their mobile number, which is linked to their account. That's enough. Or you know their Aadhaar number, which is linked to a bank account. That's enough. Or he can give you just your virtual payment account number. What is called as UPI ID. For example, it could be Simon at ICICI. That's that type of ID which is given. That is enough. Or you can even do by scanning a QR code at a merchant shop. At a merchant site, they have a board which has a QR code, or you tell him that you want to make payment through UPI, he'll show you his mobile with the QR code. You scan it and the payment is done. So all type of payments are available. Peer-to-peer means person to person. You can make bill payments, you can do merchant payments, you can do online shopping. And then there are very interesting feature of mandates. This facility is available. What we mean by mandates is something like, standing instructions. You can put into your app saying that you have to pay 10,000 rupees as a rent every month on the first of the month to your landlord. Or you can say that I want to make 5,000 rupees today, but not now, at evening at 6 p.m. The payment will automatically be triggered at 6 p.m. And so on and so forth. So these mandates are available, right? Then there are the charges for the transactions are very negligible. They range from maybe about 5 paisa to maximum of 50 paisa for every transaction. And most payment fund transfer are actually free. Google Pay gives free money transfers. These transactions are secured. Another feature which here is very unique is the send and request facility. It is basically send means what you push money. You push money. You request money means you pull money. You can always, knowing your friend's mobile account on the Google app, on the Google Pay app, you can say request your friend to give you 1,500 rupees. So the message will automatically pop up from his app which he has on his mobile, provided he has the same app. And all he has to do is punch in his MPIN number, and you will get the 1,500 rupees from him. So this is a very unique facility in this all the UPI based mobile apps, right? And multiple accounts you can hold in the same app. I may have a Google Pay app on my mobile. I can link my HDFC account. I can link my State Bank. I can link my Canara Bank into it, and choose to make payment from any of these accounts. Similarly, for businessmen, they can link their overdraft accounts here. Right, so even if they don't have money in the account, if they have an overdraft facility with the bank, that can link to. And very interestingly, even offline transactions are allowed here. Offline in the sense that if you don't have an internet connection, you can use the platform what we call as the USSD, right? So unstructured supplementary service data, that's called USSD. You can even test it on your mobile. As of now, you can punch in *99#. That USSD feature list will pop up. It's a set of menus. You can use any of those transactions. So this is available on the UPI platform as well. Right. So let's move on into the third type of apps which are there. These are the wallet apps. Now, wallet. What do you mean by wallet? Wallet is just like your purse, your leather purse which you have in your pocket. Mobile wallets are apps on your mobile which store details. It's just like your leather. You can make a parallel comparison to your leather purse that you carry in your pocket. What you do in your pocket, in your purse, is apart from currency, you store your cards, your payment cards. Similarly, here you can store all the details of your cards, which can be either scanned or entered into that wallet, and that will hold all the details of your card. So the usage is similar to taking a card from your leather wallet or your purse and swiping it at a device, right? So these mobiles carry your wallet, and you can use them on a point of sale machines, which are enabled for NFC, say near frequency payment schemes, basically. So you can, it is what we call as a contactless, which is now getting very popular in this time of this COVID pandemic. So for an NFC enabled POS, you can just tap your card on your mobile on the point of sale, and your payment is done. Or you can scan a QR code which is available at the merchant side. So wallets are that way very useful. Multiple cards can be stored in the wallet, so you can use interchangingly. You can use either a debit or a credit or a prepaid card at a different. For example, you may find that for booking a airline ticket, an HDFC card is better. It gives you 5% discount. You can use a State Bank of India card at IRCTC, which gives you a better service, so on and so forth. So all these facilities are available in a wallet app. Wallets are nothing but an exact replica of your actual purse with the electronic facilities put inside that. So final, of course, is the net banking. The card, we have covered card payments. We have run through very quickly on the mobile apps and payment through mobiles. Finally, we come to the e-payments. Now, e-payments, when I mean net banking, I don't want to get into the overall overall gamut of the net banking operations. Net banking is a very wide term. You can do all your banking transactions like opening an account, closing an account, opening a fixed deposit. I'm not we are referring to that here. We are only looking at the e-payments part of net banking, right? So these e-payment transactions using the net banking can be used either at a computer or a mobile or at an ATM or any of these POS terminals. The latest ones which are Android driven with the merchants. And like all of us know, these are bank driven websites, and the various types of payments allowed depends on what the bank allows there. But generally, all types of payments are available: booking tickets, transferring of money, buying purchases, so on and so forth. Right. So the most commonly used for fund transfer, the most common transaction that people use, 90% or so, is what the surveys say. People use net banking is for making fund transfers, movement of money. So the most commonly used platforms for this movement of money, which this net banking channel uses, are the RTGS. All of us know, probably the real-time gross settlement, the NEFT, the IMPS. IMPS is the immediate payment services, right? So all of these require the registration of a beneficiary. That's something unique for this net banking. You have to register a beneficiary. Some banks allow transaction within 30 minutes of registration. Some allow only after 24 hours. So that you have to be aware of. So wherever this registration, of course, is not needed when you're using a payment gateway which is linked to net banking, because the bank is already linked to the payment gateway through UPI, which bypasses the registration of beneficiary requirements, right? So let's quickly get into, just a comparison of this NEFT, RTGS, and IMPS channels. I put it on the screen. The minimum transfer value is from rupee 1 onwards for NEFT and IMPS. That means there is no bottom line base limit. RTGS, the base limit is 2 lakhs. Payment options, of course, online and offline. When we mean by offline, you can as well walk into a bank and do the transaction through a physical challan. IMPS is only online. Maximum transfer value IMPS limits to 2 lakhs. The others don't have. Real time, of course, IMPS immediate payment system is basically the immediate payment is it can done immediately, like its name suggests. NEFT and RTGS is real time and half yearly basis, half hourly basis, because NEFT does a batch mode settlement stuff, whereas RTGS is real time gross settlement. Right? So service timings, of course, NEFT and RTGS depend upon the banking hours, so they are limited from 8 AM to 7 PM. IMPS is 24 hours. It's a completely digital platform which UPI also uses. And invert transactions, the charges and transaction charges are all decided by the banks. That's what it is. So we have covered IMPS, which is immediate payment services, RTGS, real-time gross settlement, and then of course the National Electronic Fund Transfer, which is NEFT. I think this covers the net banking part. So I think more or less at a little faster pace, we have covered due to the time, availability with us. We have covered all the 3 transaction channel types: the card payments, the payments through the mobile or through the apps, and of course the net banking. There will be something interesting for you to know. What are the emerging trends which are happening, especially not even before the appearance of this COVID and the pandemic which swept through the world? Electronic payments is an ever evolving industry. It keeps on evolving. In fact, every day there are some new features which are announced. There are security aspects which are being updated and stuff like that. So people, banks, and the technology companies like us, we are ever in the hunt to see how best we can make things more and more comfortable for people to make payments. So you have online transactions. Your Visa has introduced something called a quick checkout, a Visa checkout. MasterCard has introduced something like pay by click to pay, right? It's called click to pay. So you have to all your net banking and your card details, you have to first of all register with them, and then they give you a facility with just a simple click. What I'm trying to highlight here is the accent, the effort in the electronic payment industry is to make things more simple, more faster for people to use. So therefore, these various trends are emerging to make things faster and also to bring many other things which are not available in electronic payments, many features, many transactions into the gamut. These are the two broad beachheads, where all the development and your R&D effort is it's focused on. So you have things like voice-based payments which are appearing. You have to register your voice because just like your fingerprint, your voice is unique electronically for a digital medium. So you register your voice one time, and then whenever you want to do a payment, you can do it. You can use your voice-based authentication. I don't know how many of you are having an account with Standard Chartered Bank. Standard Chartered Bank has already introduced this voice-based authentications for you to check your balance and stuff like that. This is becoming more and more popular, especially since people are using more mobiles to do their payments rather than any other channels. So you'll have to talk into your mobile and do the authentication. These payment systems are slowly making progress. Then, of course, the facial recognition authentications are coming up. Not to worry, doesn't mean that the moment you show your face, payment goes from your bank. It's not like that. This is only an authentication mode in conjunction with other methods that you do. You enter your card details and then you just show your face, you scan your face on your camera and the payment goes through. These are all, these are all things done to only protect, enhance security for the actual holder of the payment instrument, right? So then you look at this walkthrough payments. Now, walkthrough payments, I think you must have heard of this RFID, which is radio frequency identification, mode. Most of us are familiar with this FASTag, which our cars, we have got for our cars to go through this national highway toll gates. This is something like that. That RFID is limited to, these assets like cars, or you can even carry an RFID sticker on your wallet. And the moment those are based on radio frequencies, on magnetic waves. So when you go through an environment which has got this magnetic reader or this radio frequency receiver, it will pick up that thing. It is more like it's a combination of a radio receiver and a barcode analyzer, like we see in stores, where the barcode reader, you scan before the barcode reader, and the particular item is scanned through that code. The billing software is populated with details of what the item is, what is the weight, and what is the price, etc., etc. So that RFID is something like that. So the moment your car goes through, or you use it at some other payment area through using an RFID mode, it recognizes which car you are traveling, where are you, and stuff like that, and takes money from your prepaid. Basically, your FASTag is nothing but a prepaid. So it's a combination of a prepaid card, and the mode uses RFID. Similarly, is this walkthrough payments, which is kind of being researched, and it's already there in experiment. Walkthrough is something like your card details and your app on your mobile can be picked up by a device which is there at the store entrance. So you don't have to go stop at a checkout counter, waste your time. All you have to go is go pick up all your items, and as you walk through, the RFID and barcode and these Internet of Things powered devices along with cameras on the shelves of a store will monitor what you are taking, right? And they will record what exactly is the item that you have chosen. Entrance to the shop, and moment you walk out of the shop, the device there would transmit. It will talk to your app which is there in your mobile, and your payment is directly debited to your bank. These are futuristic, which is already there. Amazon has already launched such stores in the US on trial basis. And these walk-through payments, you don't have to stop anywhere. You just walk through with a mobile in your hand or in your pocket or in your wallet, and your payment is done. That is the new thing which is coming up. As far as the ambit, the global the need for various types of payments to be brought into single instruments. So you are looking at multi-currency wallets and prepaid cards. Multi-currency wallets is nothing but I take money. I have money in my bank account here in Indian rupees. I go to Dubai and I can go and draw from an ATM there using my mobile. I can draw dirhams or I can draw the US dollar. So this confluence of various currencies, multi-currency wallets, these are coming up. Digital banks. Digital banks is the latest innovation here, not only for the electronic payments, but covering the entire ambit of the banking. This is different from a digital banking. Digital banking is nothing but your physical banks where you do the transactions to digital medium. Whereas digital banks, there is no bank. Everything exists electronically. You don't have to open an account. Like I mentioned right up there in the first two screens, some accounts, the elements of electronic payments won't need a bank in the future because your mobile is a bank. So you open an account there, transfer money from any of your card or any of your other places, and from there you make a transaction. So you won't need a bank as you go along. These digital banks are appearing quick and fast. Finally, this is the most exciting stuff which is coming up, is the confluence of cryptocurrencies and electronic payment platforms. Like I mentioned, cryptocurrencies like Bitcoins, some governments have yet to recognize these electronic or cryptocurrencies, but sooner or later, this is slowly making its way. It's going to become popular. It's already popular in several parts of the world. The only thing today is that if you are owning a cryptocurrency, there are many cryptocurrency exchanges which are available. You can go and check it on the net, like Bitcoins. You can go and buy a Bitcoin using your currency. And then finally, you can use those Bitcoins in only sites. Today, mostly all gaming sites and these kind of gambling sites are the ones which accept cryptocurrencies. But then assuming in a gaming site, you have played a game and you have won some winnings, what do? You have to only again go back to the crypto ecosystem and use it there. You can't use it like your usual money. So these confluence of cryptocurrencies and electronic payment platforms, this is the innovation that's coming up. These are platforms which will allow your cryptocurrencies to be transferred into a normal account like rupee. So you earn some cryptocurrencies, any of your trades, and you can convert them into rupees or dollars and go and even withdraw it from an ATM. So the confluence of cryptocurrencies and electronic payments, that is the latest trend. A lot of these things happening, and I hope, I'm sure as we all go along in life post COVID, you will find many of these instruments and innovations coming up, which we'll all be using. So I think we've reached the end of the discourse on the electronic transactions. I hope this was useful. Just like a cab driver, when you complete a visit, the guy will race through the last few kilometers. I think I was there in that mode. I'm sorry, but I hope I've covered a lot of elements, terms and things which we normally use in our daily lives. Thank you once again for the opportunity. We can go on to questions.
Thank you, sir. Thanks a lot.
Thank you very much, sir, for a wonderful session. Sir, we have a few questions. Hello, sir. A few questions.
Hillary,
So can you
your
hear me?
voice is
Hello?
not-
I'm not able to hear you.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. Sir, a few questions are there. How safe are they? Is it very safe, or it is advisable to use it?
Hillary, repeat your question. It's not audible, Hillary.
Hello, sir. Mobile wallets, how safe they are?
Mobile wallets are safe, pretty safe. Like I mentioned, like most of these electronic payment technologies have matured over time. A lot of data security standards. See, all this entire electronic payment industry comes under what is called as the Payment Council International, PCI. And they've got something called data security standards. So any instrument, anything that you use in this electronic payments environment has to be PCI DSS certified. The moment you are PCI DSS certified, you can be assured that, theoretically nothing is safe in the world, right? Even the NASA and Pentagon servers are hacked repeatedly. It's as secure as possible in the security technologies available as of now. Pretty safe.
Hello? Sir, there is also another question. From among the various modes of payment,
Yes.
which is more safer? Google Pay or Phone Pay?
Essentially, if you look at it, Phone Pay and Google Pay are similar type of apps. Both use UPI, and the payment mode by itself is through a very secured layer called the UPI, which uses IMPS and the UPI. Both are digital platforms owned by very safe. However, your mobile, a lot of these things depend on your mobile. What type of mobile you use and your usage. Assuming your mobile is hacked by somebody, that's a different. It depends on the environment in which your mobile operates, right? So if you're not using too many apps and you're not exposed to too many websites and stuff like that, and your mobile is not compromised. If your mobile is compromised, everything on your mobile can be hacked. So the app per se by itself are PCI DSS certified. They are safe.
Sir, another question there. Hello?
Yes, please.
In your presentation, you said that do not use debit cards for online shopping.
Yes.
Could you please elaborate more on that, sir? Because it's widely used.
Very widely
Debit
used.
cards are more widely used for shopping.
Yes. I'll tell you. See, if you see, for example, this happened to me some years back. I used my credit card at a shop, right? And the shopkeeper, he took my card to go and swipe, saying that the machine is inside the cashier's cabin.
Oh.
Apparently, what he has done is he has taken a photocopy of my card. Your card is a plastic. The front portion tells you the number of your card. It has a 16-digit number. It has got your the expiry date and your name. These are the three critical components which is needed for a transaction, which is there on the front side. And a photocopy on the back side will take away your CVV. Your CVV is at the back. So this guy apparently has taken a photocopy of my card. And few weeks later, I found that 10,000 rupees was withdrawn from an ATM using my credit card. So, instantly I was alert because I never use my credit card for making ATM cash withdrawals. Similarly, I know of another person whose card like this was compromised in a restaurant. The restaurant waiter takes away the card, goes inside, photocopies and gives it to you. You never know. So what really happened was 3 weeks later, he found that his card was used for $8,000 in Hong Kong. So what happens is, what I'm trying to tell you with these examples is that if your card is compromised, what are you compromising? If my credit card is compromised, I can always raise an objection to my credit card bank saying that my card has been compromised. Please check, and I need not pay. But what happens if your debit card is compromised? If your debit card is compromised, straight away that transaction would have hit the savings account. Correct? So if there is a phishing attack or somebody has stolen details of your debit card, it means that your savings account is available to them, which is very risky. You never know. Do you always check? I don't think many of us keep checking our debit card, our bank account statements. We do at the end of the month or something like that, or only periodically, not every day. So you have to keep your savings account insulated from the outside world. That is the objective when I say that please don't use your debit card for shopping.
Thank you, sir. Thank you very much for your the thing that most of us are aware of. The floor is open to the participants. If there are any questions, any queries or clarifications to make with the resource person, the participants may do so. So some of the questions raised by the participants has been already asked by me.
Okay.
I think as there are no more questions, we'll move on to the next part of the webinar. We have the organizing secretary, Dr. D. Kanagavalli, coordinator, BCom CA, to propose vote of thanks.
Respected Principal, Dr. N. Daumani Christopher, Head of Commerce Department, Mr. A. Martin David, sir. Our webinar guest speaker, Mr. Simon Solomon. My dear colleagues and teaching fraternity from various colleges and universities in Tamil Nadu and other states in India, a very warm greetings to you all. I sincerely thank our principal for his support in all the endeavors of our department and especially for this webinar. His encouragement and support helped us to materialize this webinar. Thank you, sir. It's my bound duty to thank our head of the department, Dr. A. Martin David, who rendered his guidance in all the activities and helped us to have such an eminent guest speaker among us. Thank you, sir. Due to COVID-19, now using of e-payments has become a part of our life. It's done so to protect ourselves from coronavirus infections and to make cash transactions with a safe at home. But at the same time, we should be safe from all nitty-gritty involved in e-payments too. Having this in mind, this webinar was organized. Our guest speaker, Mr. Simon Solomon, is the right person to give a perspicacious view on electronic payments, as he is the co-founder and managing director of a fintech company which is engaged in the electronic payments industry. Thank you, sir, for enlightening us. My heartfelt thanks to Mrs. James Lynn Vidya for her prayer and to Dr. A. Hilary Joseph.
Ma'am? Ma'am, it's not audible, ma'am. Your video and audio.
Nixon, yes, sir.
DK, ma'am? DK, ma'am?
மேம் உங்க மைக் ஆஃப் ஆயிருக்கு மேம்.
Hello.
Yes. Yes, ma'am.
Sir, from the big audible.
Yes, it's audible, but your video is not here. There.
Okay, sir. I'll propose vote of thanks from the beginning now.
Yeah, fine.
Yes, sir,
You
thank you.
thank Dr.
Respected
Hilary
Principal,
Joseph for,
Dr. M. Dow,
yeah, from,
Christopher, Head of Commerce Department,
Hilary Joseph சொல்றது பேருக்கு
Dr. A.
சொல்றாங்க.
Martin David,
இதுக்கு பிறகு சொல்றாங்க.
yeah, you said something that is
அதுக்கு பிறகு
moderated by Dr. Hilary Joseph.
இதுல இருந்து
yes, sir. Okay, sir. I can. Yes, sir. Yes, sir. Yes, sir. Yes, sir. I proliferately thank the technical committee members, Mr. Sundareshwaran, Dr. Nixon, Mr. Mohammad Hussain, and Dr. Arunil Kaur, who supported us to conduct this webinar in a smooth manner. I want to thank all the participants and attending this webinar with a by including video and without any
Ma'am, forward for your
Hilary, your voice is not audible. Right. On behalf of the Department of Commerce, I thank the resource person and all the participants and faculty members. Thanks, one and all. Thank you. Thank you, sir.
Thank you so much.
Yes, sir.